So, have you noticed how technical debt tends to spike right after major deadlines? It's almost like people let their guard down once they hit that milestone.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Like everyone just collapses and doesn't want to do any more cleanup work for a while.
Exactly. And then there's the phase when new features start getting added rapidly. People are excited about new things and don't pay enough attention to keeping the code base clean.
Right. So it's kind of a natural cycle. You get this burst of development activity, followed by a period where technical debt accumulates as people focus on new features, rather than refactoring old ones.
That's true. But here's something interesting. I think we can predict these spikes based on our team dynamics and project timelines. For instance, if we know we're going to be pushing out lots of features next quarter, we should allocate some time beforehand to address existing debts.
Makes sense. If we could anticipate those periods and plan around them, maybe we wouldn't end up with such large chunks of technical debt piling up all at once.
Absolutely. Another thing is how often we see technical debt accumulate due to rush decisions during sprints. People take shortcuts because they're under pressure to meet sprint goals.
It happens way too often, especially when there's a looming deadline or when management pressures us to push something through quickly.
Which brings me to another point. Managing stakeholder expectations is crucial here. We need to communicate clearly about what taking shortcuts means in terms of future maintenance costs and potential bugs down the line.
Communicating that up front would definitely help prevent some of the worst cases from happening.
Speaking of which, have you ever tried to quantify the amount of technical debt in a project? It's tricky but necessary for effective planning.
Yeah, it's really hard to put a number on it. I've seen some teams use lines of code or the number of open issues as indicators.
Those are good starting points, but they don't fully capture the complexity. What about using metrics like cyclomatic complexity or code churn rates?
Cyclomatic complexity sounds interesting. How does that work exactly?
Essentially, it measures the number of linearly independent paths through your source code. The higher the number, the more complex the code and potentially harder to maintain.
That makes sense. And code churn rates, how do those factor in?
Code churn looks at how often certain parts of the code base change over time. High churn areas might indicate unstable or poorly designed sections that contribute significantly to technical debt.
So combining both could give us a clearer picture of where we stand with technical debt.
Definitely. Plus, integrating these metrics into regular reporting cycles can help keep everyone aware and proactive about managing technical debt. Absolutely. Once we have a good handle on measuring technical debt, the next step is figuring out how to prioritize it effectively.
True. Wayne. It's important to distinguish between what needs immediate attention and what can wait.
Exactly. One approach I found useful is categorizing debts based on impact and effort. Critical issues that affect stability or security should obviously be addressed first.
Makes sense. But how do you decide what goes into each category?
Well, you can use a framework like Moscow. Must have, should have, could have, won't have this time. This helps in organizing tasks based on priority and feasibility.
That sounds practical. So anything that impacts core functionality would go under must-have, right?
Precisely. And for non-critical issues, we might look at long-term benefits versus short-term costs. Sometimes it makes sense to defer certain refactorings if they don't immediately impact user experience or system performance.
I see. So it's about balancing immediate fixes with strategic improvements over time.
Exactly. Another method is using a heat map where you plot the severity of an issue against the cost of fixing it. High severity, low-cost items get top priority.
Using a visual tool like that could make it easier to communicate priorities to stakeholders too.
Definitely. Clear communication is key here. especially when dealing with stakeholders who may not fully understand the nuances of technical debt. Absolutely. Prioritization is crucial, but we also need to consider the broader impact of technical debt on our team's productivity and morale.
That's a good point. When technical debt piles up, it can really wear on the team. Everyone feels frustrated when they're constantly fighting fires instead of building new features.
Exactly. It's like being stuck in a never-ending loop of cleaning up messes that could have been prevented earlier. Over time, this can lead to burnout and decreased motivation.
And it affects productivity too. Developers spend more time debugging and fixing issues rather than innovating and improving the product.
True. Why? Plus, high levels of technical debt can make it harder for new team members to onboard. They get overwhelmed trying to navigate a messy code base.
Absolutely. It creates a negative feedback loop where the longer things go unaddressed, the harder it becomes to fix them, which in turn impacts how much the team wants to tackle those problems.
So, it's important to not only prioritize fixing technical debt, but also to foster a culture where maintaining clean code is valued. Regular code reviews and pair programming can help keep everyone accountable.
Those practices definitely help. It's about finding a balance between moving forward with new features and maintaining a healthy codebase.
Agreed. Keeping an eye on both aspects ensures that we're sustainable in the long run and keeps morale high by making sure everyone feels they're contributing positively to the project. Absolutely. Maintaining morale and productivity is crucial. But let's talk about how we balance short-term delivery needs with long-term code quality.
That's a constant challenge. It feels like there's always pressure to deliver quickly, which can sometimes compromise code quality.
Exactly. Finding that balance is key. One approach is to set clear guidelines on what compromises are acceptable in the short term and what isn't.
Guidelines sound helpful, but it's also about communicating those trade-offs clearly to everyone involved.
Definitely. Transparency helps everyone understand why certain decisions are made and builds trust that the team is working towards sustainable development practices.
Right, and having a buffer for refactoring can help too. Allocating specific time slots for cleaning up technical debt ensures it doesn't get completely neglected.
Agreed. Another strategy is to prioritize features that inherently improve code quality over time. For example, implementing modular design patterns can make future changes easier and reduce long-term technical debt.
That makes sense. Focusing on architectural improvements can pay off in the long run by making the code base more maintainable and scalable.
And it's important to review and adjust these strategies regularly. As projects evolve, so do the challenges and opportunities for improving code quality without sacrificing timely deliveries.
Continuous improvement is definitely key. Regular retrospectives can highlight areas where adjustments are needed and reinforce best practices.